learn how to say no more often. And what I really mean by that is say yes to yourself more often. It's not something you actually say out loud, but it's an action you take. You ever heard the saying, I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking so loudly? Well, yes, I could clearly see in your actions that you hate yourself, that you don't like yourself. I mean, it's kind of hard to mask that, especially when you're acting all the time. Okay, but what if you never realize that, what if when you're done performing, nobody actually sticks around? What if nobody's actually really down for the ride? Maybe that'll make you lay down and just release everything. Because you know what they say. To be loved is to be seen. I say that. At least. So see yourself. Be one with you. And say yes to yourself. Because after a while, everybody, you will realize something. It never needed to make sense to them. It never needed to make sense to your parents or your teachers or the principals. If you had an idea, if you had a dream, if you had something you wanted to do, then you do it. Okay, if you have people coming around constantly asking you for favors, you know what the great man once said? If it wasn't for favors, they wouldn't call you. Check up on the people that do care. Give your energy to the people that do care. It seems like we try so hard to try to be valuable to people, to useful to people. Who taught you that you needed to be useful in order to be loved? You do not need to be useful in order to be loved. And also, when was the last time you put down everything and allowed yourself to just be held? Allowed yourself to just relax. Peace. Sometimes when the brain gets that, you think you're down the wrong path. Sometimes you could do everything right and still have it look like you've done nothing. Because life is so subtle that sometimes you could walk through the door of your biggest, most wildest dreams, and it's so subtle that you don't even notice that you've even walked through the door until you're already in the room. I kind of forget where I heard this quote, but it went a little something like, when I was clever, I wanted to change the world. But when I became wise, I realized I just wanted to change myself. Because nobody is going to be able to go out there and change the world. At least not by themselves, okay? You weren't put here to change the world. You were simply put here to feel it while you still can. When I was a kid, I still kind of am, but I was a big people pleaser. My ideas, my thoughts would literally be other people's thoughts. Like, if I thought someone was cool, I would embody them. And I'm not saying I would go around acting and flowing, but like in my mind, I would kind of like pretend. Like switch characters. Because I didn't like mine. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I talked. I didn't like, well, anything. And that would lead me to do things for other people. Do favors. Always try to be above and beyond for everybody and never doing anything for myself. Always saying yes to everybody, everything, regardless of what it was. People pleasing. Not necessarily getting used, but I was allowing myself. I was using myself. That is actually the unfortunate reality, you know? So everybody, you don't need to change the world. Because you can't. You know, you can't change the people around you. But you can change the people around you. And don't let that go over your head. You know, you never needed to change the world, but if you can change yourself, like we were talking about before, change your mindset, change the way you look at things, well, then you have changed the world. Your world, at least. And that's the only one that really matters. You know, it's the only chance you get. You know, because to live is to truly risk it all. To take a chance. To put your emotions on the table. To put something on the table. Because you are all you got. As long as you have yourself, you have someone. And okay, I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care how rugged it gets. I don't care how low you are. The only reason why you know low is because you've been high. The only reason why you know short is because you've seen tall. Everything in life has opposites. When there's a yes, there's a no. Learn how to say no. And I'm not saying, oh, be a dick and go out there and just say no to everybody. But say yes to you. Do what you want to do. Say what you want to say. Be who you want to be. Because the world doesn't shape you into who you want to be. It shapes you into who you need to be. So get out there and just try to make your difference. You know, live your life. Enjoy it your way. You know, don't read the same book twice and expect a different ending. Because it's not going to happen. You know the saying? This too shall pass. No matter how you feel. Happy, sad, angry. You get out there and you do it. You know, even after I graduated high school and entered free roam, or whatever you call it after you complete the tutorial in life, I went out there and I realized that I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself. You know, so I decided what any good fellow would decide to do to make the family proud. Go to college, you know, and major in something, anything. You know, so I ended up finding an amazing roommate who is still my friend to this day, but I ended up taking his idea. You know, I ended up taking nursing as my own thing. Even though I don't really like nursing. I like science, but nursing is just not my purpose, not my meaning. That's what I thought beforehand, but in reality, everybody, you don't really have a purpose or meaning. You create it through your own means, you know? I mean, you'll realize something. You know, you're not a storyteller, you're not a superstar, you're not a singer, a rapper, a YouTuber even. You're just a human being, okay? We're all just human beings trying our best, living for our first time. Let me stress that. We are living for the first time. Okay? Everybody out there is living for the first time. Okay? We have no idea what any of this is. Okay? We go ahead and we make it. We just make it as we go. You know? I mean, look around. Every single thing that you call society was made up by no one smarter than you. Okay? And that is just the reality of the situation. You know? So that is why you need to follow your own gut, follow your heart, follow your mind, follow whatever it is this is telling you, okay? Because this will lead you somewhere, okay? Because the only way to find yourself is to lose yourself. And when you don't know what road to take, trust me, any road will take you there. You just need to try. You just need to get out there. You lose nothing in trying. You know, take a look. See how it's raining right now? Rainy day. Sometimes I feel like I need the rainy ones in order to appreciate the sunny ones. You know, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but don't be like me. You know, don't make other people's ideas your own. follow your own idea. Even if it's stupid, cringe, corny, whatever, doesn't even seem like it'll work. Because remember this, everybody. If you don't even believe in yourself, how do you expect someone else to? You know? So get out there. I'm not telling you to go out there and say no to everybody, but I'm telling you to say yes to you. To follow your path, your pursuit. You don't know where it will take you. You know, imagine how different your life would be if you actually did all of the things you said you were going to do. It'd be a lot different, wouldn't it? You know? Sometimes it's hard for you to even get out of bed. So you don't. You know, you stay in there. You know, waiting for someone to come and help you. Come and save you from your predicament. But nobody ever comes. Because it's you. It's you against you out there. You in your own mind. You know, the moment you decide to change this, your thoughts, the moment you decide to change your thoughts, the moment you can start changing your life. You know, because your mind is absolutely everything. So do not halt. Do not think you can't, because the person who says they can and the person who says they can't are both correct. Your mind will reinforce those ideas, those thoughts, and you will make them reality. What you think is what you are. Okay? And don't forget, you attract also what you are. So be you. Be unapologetically you. And maybe things will start changing. Thank you for watching the entire video. Learn to say no more often than you're saying yeah. I mean, that's not really what I mean, but just if you don't want to do something, don't just say yes because, I don't know, you feel like you are obliged to. You know, you can do anything, just not everything. So get out there and stay positive. You know, enjoy the day, the rainy day. I guess I'm going to go get food or something. I'm not really too sure. You know, but life is all about, I mean, your life is not going to be entertaining. You know, don't compare your real to their real. It's not worth it. It's never real. Enjoy yourself. Get out there, go. Till next time.